Genesis chapter 13. Verse 1. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, toward the south. Verse 2. And Abram was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. Verse 3. And when he was come near to Damascus, a certain king of the Syrians took him, and he fought with him, where he overcame him, for the Syrians had conspired together against him, and Ben-Hadad escaped, and fled. Verse 4. And King Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. Verse 5. And he took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the men which they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, but they came unto a place called Sichem, towards the plain of Moreh. Historical context. In the 2nd millennium BC, Canaan was inhabited by various city-states with distinct cultures. Genesis chapter 14. Verse 1. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elasa, Chedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of nations. Verse 2. That these made war with Bera king of Sodom, and with Bershah king of Gomorrah, Shernab king of Admah, and Shemeber king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zor. Verse 3. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. Verse 4. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. Verse 5. In the 14th year came Amraphel, Arioch, and Chedorlaomer, and Tidal the king of nations, and they made war with Bera the king of Sodom, and with Bershah the king of Gomorrah, Shernab king of Admah, and Shemeber the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zor. Historical context. This chapter takes place in a time period that corresponds to around 2160 BCE, according to the chronology of ancient Near Eastern kings. Verse 6. And there went also Rimmon Azuzim, and the Eames, and the Homam, and the Phazazon, which were by them, 12 years they rebelled. Verse 7. In the 14th year came Chedorlaomer, and the kings that with him, and smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emmons in Shave Kiriathaim. Verse 8. And the Horites in their Mount Seir, unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. Verse 9. And they returned, and came to En Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, that dwelt in Hazaz and Tamar. Historical context. The region of Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, where these kings ruled, was a center of ancient civilizations such as the Sumerians and Akkadians. Verse 10. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same is Zor, and they joined battle with them in the vale of Siddim. Verse 11. Against Chedorlaomer the king of Elam, and Tidal king of nations, and Amraphel king of Shinar, and Arioch the king of Elasa, for kings with 5. Verse 12. And there came also the robber, which is called in Hebrew Shem, the spoiler, he that had been made a captive by Chedorlaomer. Verse 13. One was taken who had been born in captivity, from Babylon and from Hela by Jeleth, to Dan as far as Beersheba. Historical context. This mention of Dan suggests the city of this name may have existed prior to its later association with a tribe or territory in ancient Israel. Verse 14. And they came unto En Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, that dwelt in Hazaz and Tamar. Verse 15. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same is Zor winky face at least, whose pasture was the plain of Jordan in Hazaz and Tamar. Verse 16. Now the valley of Siddim was full of slime pits, and as the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, they fell there, and there were left remaining 2 slaves, that were not slain with the rest brought away captive. Historical context. This passage describes a battle in which one side, the 4 kings, successfully defeated another, the 5 kings. Slaves or prisoners of war, such as those mentioned here, would have been common spoils of war in ancient societies. Genesis chapter 15. Verse 1. After these things the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward. Verse 2. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou have me to do for thee? Shall not the son of my house be prince over me? Verse 3. And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. Verse 4. And, behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. Verse 5. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now toward heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. Verse 6. And Abram believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Verse 7. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee this land to inherit it. Verse 8. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? Verse 9. And he said unto him, Take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle-dove, and a young pigeon. Verse 10. And Abram said, God forbid that I should take any man's stuff, either to bribe withal, or to give, saving only the reward which Abraham's servant shall receive. But he said, Take it not on this hand nor on that hand. Genesis chapter 16. Verse 1. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian did bear unto him. Verse 2. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael, by their names, according to their generations, the firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam. Verse 3. And Mishma, and Dumah, and Massa. Verse 4. Hadar, and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. Verse 5. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names in their generations. Historical context. In ancient Near Eastern cultures, patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were considered the founders of their respective clans. Verse 6. And God was against Hagar, because she looked on Ishmael with disdain. Verse 7. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Shur. Verse 8. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence comest thou? And whither goest thou? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. Verse 9. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. Historical context. In ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt, it was common for barren women to seek divine intervention through rituals involving spiritual intermediaries like angels. Verse 10. Now Sarai afflicted Hagar